switch over here. Still waiting on going. Now it's going to say we're going live. Of course it's going to say we're going live now. All right. Well, I know Jess is in the chat. So, Jess, if you're there, just let us know. Let us know if you hear us and you see us and everything's going on, because we were having some issues. Of course, got to wait for that to all catch up now. Oh boy. Well, while we're waiting to get an answer here, I think we had some technical difficulties getting this started. All right. I see her saying hi, so I assume that means she can hear us and everything's good. So let me go ahead and switch us back to this view here. We were having some issues, and great, confirmed.
Yeah, lots of issues.
Yeah, we were having issues with OBS not having the right IP address set up, so it wasn't letting us go. Not updating, not being able to change the IP thing. And then, like, as I hit go live, once we had that all situated out, I saw that it didn't quite go live. So we're sitting here through the intro song.
Twiddling our thumbs.
And I'm going, oh boy, I don't think it has updated at all. So then that's why if you come into the stream of where it actually starts, we were checking everything out. So fun times for our first actual like live stream.
Like, do you see it? I don't see it. Where is it?
Of the podcast. Yeah. So, as if anyone who hasn't been listening to the podcast probably already knows, we're not experts at this yet. And
by any means.
With the amount of time that Leslie and I both have to be able to do this stuff, it's very limited. Not to
time to practice and play.
Right. And not to mention, I kind of sprung this on you, like midweek because of the
Wednesday?
episode? Yeah.
Wednesday? Or, yeah, probably Wednesday while you were badgering me. Have you watched it yet? Have you watched it yet? Have you watched it yet?
Well, that is what I'm known for, so.
Like, I'm at work. I'm working.
Well, so
watch it later.
So was I.
Yeah, working.
She's kind of echoey. Can still understand, just letting you know. I don't know. Hang on, let me look at settings here. Because we got you muted in Skype. Do I have an extra setting here? Desktop audio's fine. Headphones are fine.
I've got muted in Skype.
Is it over here? That's just my mic. Skype. Leslie's still muted over there. I don't know what to do about the echo right now. Hopefully it's not too distracting, but appreciate it. It's always nice to have a little bit of feedback in there in the audience letting us know of some stuff, but I don't see...
No, if I push the microphone back away from me a little bit.
Yeah, see, and it shouldn't.
But then I don't know if you can still hear me.
I can hear you. It shouldn't be my headphones because those are always unmuted. So, oh well. But thanks for the heads up. That might be something I'm gonna have to investigate a little bit further as we
figure out
as we learn this all. I'm just more impressed that I was able to
work through all that stuff.
Well, that and the scene transitions, because like I was very scared for not knowing how scene transitions were going to work and how my hotkeys were going to be set up. Okay. She says it's still there even with the mic moved back, but that's, again, we're in Skype, but also in Discord. So her audio is coming from Discord versus Skype.
Do you want me to switch and see what happens?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead. We'll see what happens there.
Okay, now I'm muted in Discord.
And that might fix it. Because I can tell a difference on my end, just audio quality wise. But whatever, we're boomers. I mean, I know that phrase is kind of like overused right now, but as one of my favorite YouTubers, Nick Ricada, likes to say, just just go with you're a boomer. All right, so to kind of actually, since we derailed ourselves there for the first little bit, we're actually going to be talking about Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett. We haven't been able to review it for the podcast formal, so I figured for our first live stream, we could talk about that and talk just about kind of Star Wars in general. So if anyone that's here from the other YouTube sphere that I kind of interact with, it's not the content that you guys are used to, so sorry about that. But if you're here, appreciate it. And just to kind of get some of that jazz stuff out of the way, if you want to like, share, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz that drives everyone insane, but unfortunately, like every YouTuber has to say it. Also, we've got Patreon now. We need to schedule a time.
Put more videos.
Right. We gotta get time set aside for doing our next Daredevil episode over there. So if you want to join us on over there, we got 3 tiers: $1 tier for a tip jar. $3 tier is our Cynic tier, which gets early access to podcast episodes that we pre-record. If I can ever figure out how to get that pre-recorded stuff up there a day early. And then the $5 critic tier, which will give you access to movie riffs when we do movie riffs. Like I said, we're doing the Daredevil watch along on Netflix and talking about that. And yeah, so, you know, a lot of content that we're planning on creating over there. And as you can see, we're doing our first live stream. So, you know, we're trying to jazz it up, I guess. Try to be kind of real YouTubers while working our full-time jobs.
We're making an effort. We're at least trying.
Well, I will say, like, we've come a long way from when I started this, like, almost 3 years ago, where it was just me on a really crappy laptop with one audio channel actually recording. And then moving to the MacBook, where I was actually able to do better recording, to getting an actual PC, a soundboard, or a sound mixer rather, and all this stuff that you now see before us, because it was a dream from the get-go to kind of try to get us onto the YouTube side of things. So it's really kind of nice to, even though we're stumbling at it, we're getting there. So
we're ahead of everybody still dreaming and wishing, doing coulda, shoulda, woulda on the couch, right?
Absolutely.
We're actually stumbling up the hill.
Well, and that's where I have to give a credit to Horror Nights End podcast, or Horror Nights End, I think she just goes by now, and she's got her YouTube. She just released a new video today talking about horror recommendations on Netflix and I think other streaming services. But you know, Crystal over there was the real impetus for getting me off my butt to like just go ahead and do it. You know, just don't let anything kind of sit in your way and just do it. So with that said, we got that stuff out of the way. So let's talk about Book of Boba Fett. Now, I think the general perception of Book of Boba Fett is that it's mediocre. See, this is like stuff I want to get into on the video that I have planned coming out called "Does Toxic Fandom Exist?" And where diehard fans kind of end up getting in the way of new ideas and trying to expand content in our IPs rather. And I really think like Book of Boba Fett is where a lot of that is coming back to with Disney Star Wars, because outside of like some parts of the episodes, there are some issues pacing wise, story wise, but overall it's not, I don't know. I don't feel like it's as bad as some people are trying to make it out to be.
I don't think it's that bad. I just think it is. There are a lot of pacing issues, and there's issues with it being able to, I feel like, draw in a bigger audience.
Yeah.
Like my parents, who are definitely more normie, you know, Mandalorian drew them in, and they watched both seasons. My parents and I watched the first episode of Book of Boba Fett while they were in, and it did not capture their interest whatsoever. they were just kind of like, when are we getting back to, to Pedro Pascal and Mando and Baby Grogu? Like, it didn't pull them whatsoever. So I think it relies a little bit too much on the fact that the audience coming to it is going to be like, oh, it's Boba Fett, and we're bringing all this that we have with us either from books or from maybe Clone Wars cartoon, like everything we're bringing with us to help flesh it out.
Right.
But it doesn't, I mean, that first episode was not like, I have to watch anymore. It was just kind of like, yeah, I'll watch the next episode. It wasn't like, oh my God, I gotta know what happens.
Well, and
I've enjoyed the episodes as I've watched them.
Right.
But aside from like these past couple, not even the past couple, but like just the past one, it hasn't had me like super excited about it.
Well, and I guess I should go ahead and get this out of the way a little bit too. Mild or maybe major spoilers, like nothing like I think that really.
If you haven't watched anything,
right? And I don't think it's necessarily story spoilers. More like big character moments or legacy character moments that like you might be spoiled on if you're tied into kind of the expanded lore or the expanded universe. But yeah, so I think because this is the problem that it's not only endemic to the Star Wars shows, to Mandalorian or to Book of Boba Fett, but it's also a problem that the MCU shows have had is not knowing what a standard episode length is going to be. Like,
and not be able to plan for that.
Right. Well, and the main issue of that being, because even the first episode, 34 minutes, I think, maybe 39 minutes long. So you have 7 episodes for this season, and you're starting off with like a half hour, and you only have so much time to cram in the story, and you want to cover all your bases. And that was my issue with the first couple episodes, was the fact that it was breaking up present day Boba with past Boba. And I felt, although that those stories weren't bad, I felt like it really detracted from propelling Boba Fett forward into post Return of the Jedi Star Wars.
It really did. It was like you'd have just enough of either or, right, present or past, to start to get invested and involved in what's going on, and then it cuts to the other. And it just, I don't know, it just didn't feel like it was paced right. It kind of was just like, oh, well, that was interesting, but like, again, it was just kind of like, womp. Like, right. I've seen far worse television, but it didn't like excite me.
And that's not to say that both sides of those stories weren't interesting. That's the problem, is they were. It's like, here we got Boba acting as the new Jabba, and him kind of going around making his presence known, having the tributes brought to him, but then we also get to see him escape the Sarlacc pit and then be immediately taken prisoner by the Tuskens, and learning their culture, and actually, I think, a part of Boba Fett finding peace from his troubled past, dealing with the death of Jango Fett. So, because you really do get this sense of Boba going through a huge character change, and the impetus being kind of his time spent with the tribe. But again, you're dividing that attention, whereas how I would have done episode 1 is I would have set it purely in present day, post Return of the Jedi, ended on kind of a dream, open up episode 2, complete flashback, and just spend your time there telling us the Tusken story, and either spending 2 episodes there or 1 long episode, cover everything you cover, and then get us back to present day. Whereas when you're doing that split, it's a little jarring, and you're trying to keep those 2 storylines straight.
Yeah, and I don't know, it just didn't feel... It really did like mess up when you're watching the episode, the pacing of it.
And again,
like the only good transition I'm thinking of is like when again, spoilers, but
Mhm.
when Black Chrysanthemum
Oh
like
yeah,
rips him out, like that's a good transition. But I like the rest of them are just kind of like, eh.
and that's a topic to kind of get to in a little bit, because this was going to kind of the bit we talked about earlier in the week, where a legacy writer was trashing Book of Boba Fett and his kind of complaint about the security of the palace and everything, and how that should have never happened, and blah 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 blah. But we'll circle back to that here in a minute. Um, oh gosh, I just lost my train of thought. But but the what I will say, so like again, going kind of back to that runtime. So you can then only what say like 15 minutes is set present day Boba Fett, 15 minutes set in past Boba Fett. And some of the episodes do get longer as the show goes on, but there is something to be said about regular television standardized run times,
45 minutes.
where yeah you're given 45, 42 minutes, maybe 50 minutes for a special episode here or there, or like your 2 hour finales, or back-to-back episodes that allow you to adjust your storytelling to that runtime. Because even then, if you've got 20 minutes and 20 minutes, you've got that additional 10 minutes of story and exposition. You can maybe break up your flashbacks. One show that I think started out fine with that, and then kind of went off the rails as it was getting closer to when the flashbacks run up the present day. So you should already know what I'm referring to, is Arrow. Because Arrow had the dual thing of what he was facing on the island kind of ran parallel to what he was facing in present day, so it knew how to break those up until it kind of was like, oh, I don't know what to do story wise with those island flashbacks, and then forcing the narrative to kind of fit. But
Yeah.
that's still not to say, because I think it's episode 2, I believe, with the train heist. That entire flashback was fantastic. Like, it was
Yeah.
actually my favorite part about the episode. But I was still kind of annoyed with the jumping between storylines, because again, the present day stuff was getting compelling, and I feel like it totally derailed and detracted from the momentum that the present day storyline was building towards.
Yeah. I feel like the present day storyline built momentum way too slow. And that's kind of an issue of why it didn't pull in, or like why it wouldn't maybe attract the normie audience
Right.
so much, because the past stuff I feel like has more impact for the fans,
Yeah.
for the people who already know, and you're like, oh, this is great. For the people who don't, it's kind of like, I don't really understand what's going on, and I was starting to get interested in this, and now you cut to here, and and it really didn't do anything to help.
And and again, they also introduced like different concepts and ideas. I know for a lot of people, this was the controversial one, the bikers. It didn't bother me that much, and I
I
think.
can, well, I was like, I can tell you my issue with the bikes.
Mhm.
My only issue with the bikes is that they were so clean.
Right.
Because you're on Tatooine. Like, they should be gritty and dirty, and they're constantly getting sandblasted in sandstorms. There's no way they should be crisp and clean like that. Even if they're cleaning them every day. That's just my
Absolutely.
that's just my 2 cents. That was my only issue with it. I didn't care that they were a biker gang. I didn't care that they're a mod gang, with the cybernetic droid parts. Like, none of that bothered me. It was simply the fact that they were so clean.
Right, and because other people had the issues with like the color schemes, and I don't know if the modders were a big issue with people, because that is something that's it's in the EU expanded like legacy stuff, so it's not something that's been completely like, oh, this is something that they should never have added to Star Wars, or doesn't exist in Star Wars. It certainly does. But I think people got too much in an uproar, and if anyone that's if you're watching and you're in the chat and you disagree with us, feel free to, as long as you're being respectful, to type in there, because we'll definitely take your points into consideration. But yeah, it was just like I saw so many people get up in an uproar about it. One person, for example, that you and I are aware of is Star Wars Theory, one of the biggest Star Wars YouTubers out there, who he just absolutely hated it. And like it just ruined the entire episode for him. And I'm like, but outside of your point, which is a very good point about the cleanliness of the bikes, it's not anything that I think like hurts Star Wars or cheapens Star Wars.
No, like I would expect to see bikes that looked like that on Coruscant. You know,
That would
like
make more sense.
That would make total sense. And again, it doesn't bother me that they have those kind of bikes there on Tatooine. I'm not like, oh, that's not something they could have. They could totally have it. It's just that they're so clean. You know, it's literally just think about. I keep thinking of like, what is episode 2? Everybody always makes fun. Sand. It's coarse and it gets everywhere. You know, but it does. It would be sandblasting their paint job every single day. And it's just like, there's no way they stay that clean. They'd be constantly buffing it, you know, and cleaning it.
And if they're as prevalent as Stephen Root's character makes out to be, like that they're this problem gang and stuff like that, and they're constantly harassing people. So that means their bikes are going to be out there because that's kind of what they're known for outside of their body mods. Right. But it was, again, like something that I don't think it for the most part, like I don't think it propels the story any further. Okay, I don't know who you are, so we're gonna go ahead and put you in a timeout just in case. If you're an actual person, I apologize, but I don't know what that is. This is going to be the fun stuff of the YouTube side, is bots coming into the chat. So if you're an actual person, whatever, I apologize. Just let us know. You'll be back in 5 minutes. So if you're sending any weird things in again that time, you will get blocked, just for our own safety. Anyways, getting back to the topic at hand, it just was one of those things where I felt like it was a point to complain about that didn't really have a point to complain about. It was Boba trying to get some extra muscle and get respectable guards outside of the 2 Gamorreans. And yeah, that's about it. Okay, well, there's another one. That one's definitely just going to go ahead. We're going to just block you. So, anyways, this is going to be the fun stuff. It's not even going to be the actual like people who might disagree with us on stuff, but bots. This is why we have moderators. And of course, Jess had to head out, so she's not in here now to help us out on this. But thankfully, we're a small enough channel that can kind of handle them as they come in. Something completely different. This doesn't happen in the gaming streams. Find it very interesting. Anyways, so yeah, then you get to the point where the legacy Star Wars writer who wrote Shadows of the Empire, so this is a very good writer. He knows Star Wars, but he went on to complain about Book of Boba Fett being like disrespectful to the character, that he talks too much in the show, shows his face too much in the show, and then he brings up the whole point with how do you say his name again? Black
Chrysanthemum?
Chrysanthemum.
I'm guessing.
That sounds right. So if we got it wrong, oh well. But Black Chrysanthemum coming in there and taking him out of the Bacta tank, and the writer kind of complaining that, oh, it's Boba Fett, he should have better security. Like what were the kids doing? What were the Gamorreans doing? What was Fennec doing? Like, how you gotta remember, like, it's a big palace and there's like 5 of them.
There's like 5 of them. There's the 2 Gamorrean guards, like 1 Fennec Shand.
And then the bikers.
He doesn't have that same level of respect anymore, you know? Like, he's been gone. He doesn't have that same Just
terror.
for just for his name, like Boba Fett, let alone the fact that like Jabba's palace and whatnot, all that's probably gone down in respect since Bib Fortuna, has been taken over it. The mayor obviously didn't care because they're already thrown in with the pikes. Like, nobody really cares, so it's not like they're gonna have the tip top security. It's not like he's running a well oiled machine that's got all these people and all this muscle, and everything going on. This is like the beginning. This is like year one when
Right.
you realize, oh, I have a blind spot there. We need to fix that, and oh, people can get in this way, and and stuff.
Right. I mean, again, it's a big giant palace, and even he and Fennec Shand were able to break in before and take Slave One. So, like, what do you want to say about Bib Fortuna's guards? See, like, he obviously had far more, and they were more focused on protecting him than they were really about anything else in the palace. So, it's one of those things where, like, okay, now you're just kind of you're for lack of a better term, you're butthurt about something, and
You're
you
nitpicking it too
right,
much.
yeah, you're and that's again kind of the problem that comes in going back to kind of what I planned for my toxic fandom video, where it this is where it gets detrimental. Like, instead of just constantly picking out problems or things that don't work for you, maybe pick them out and then offer solutions. Like we've talked about, like with what for us hasn't worked with the show is pacing and planning. Those are easy things that you can actually fix. They're outside, like with the writing. The writing's not terrible in my opinion. Okay, why does he keep showing his face? Because it's Tamura Morrison. You don't get the guy back to
And he's the
reprise
star of the show.
right, to reprise the role, to wear a
And
helmet the entire time.
well, as far as I know, too, like again, I've not read the books hardcore, so I mean, like we kind of had a little bit of a group in middle school that would pass them around, and that's been a minute, it's been a
Yeah.
couple of minutes, so I don't truly remember. But as far as I do remember, nothing within like the visual, the cinematic universe part of it has ever indicated that he wouldn't be taking off his helmet. You know what I mean? Like I'm thinking about the original trilogy. I'm thinking about the prequels specifically, and even when he was shown up in Clone Wars. And there's nothing that gives me the impression that that would have been his creed to not show his face. So unless that was something that was hardcore in the books or the comics, or just because you're like, well, he was a Mandalorian, like, well, kind of, but he's also a clone.
Well, and
And like,
let's hit on that base. We've learned that there are basically two different sects of Mandalorians from season
right,
2 of the Mandalorian. That there are
right.
ones that don't mind taking their helmets off, and then you have the kind of the fundamentalist Mandalorians, for lack of a better term, who if you take it off, it's sacrilege.
That's over. Yeah.
And to kind of build off your point, like I've read the first book in the trilogy that actually was what was in the old like Legends EU, where Boba Fett actually was written to have survived the Sarlacc pit, and he doesn't have his armor for like on for most of the time because he's recovering. Also in the Bounty Hunter comics collection that I had, there was stuff where he was basically using his scars as to go undercover to get contracts or to find someone that was trying to actually say they were Boba Fett, and so it's one of those things where it was like it was never outside of the movies because it was just some person that they put in there to never intend
Take off.
Boba
Yeah.
Fett to become as popular as Boba Fett came, which is why they conveniently knock him into the Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi. It was never because we knew this would be a popular character and we wanted to write this redemption arc. Yes, I agree. Haunted Bagel Hobbies. Oh, it's David. Hey, David. Okay, that's why I wouldn't have recognized if you hadn't put your name there, David. I would not have recognized. Glad you could stop by. Really appreciate it. David's a friend from high school, so really good buddy. Glad to see he's here, and I know he's doing well. So, also someone who was helping me out a long time ago before we did the podcast, with trying to get like mixers and stuff like that when he was doing his No Man's Sky podcast for a little bit. Um, and yes, he is great. It is fantastic. It's got issues, it's got flaws, but it's not enough to detract from the overall enjoyment of the show.
Right.
And go ahead and throw him a moderator wrench since I know who that is. And we got another person now that can, if there's any
Delete the
bots out
bots.
there. So yeah, it's one of those things where it was never in the expanded universe that he never wore, never took off his helmet. That was something entirely new that Jon Favreau brought to the mix with The Mandalorian, which was always kind of something you and I have talked about, like,
Yeah,
well, that's new, that's new lore, but I think they've done a good job with the shows explaining the difference.
yeah, because if you listen to our podcast, that was the only thing that really confused me about watching The Mandalorian. Was like, I don't understand. I'm like, I've watched all this Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, and I don't understand what the issue is with the helmet removal. Thinking about all the Mandalorians I've seen throughout all of that, and then they gave us the explanation about this, basically, like you said, like the fundamentalists and the split. People who are okay with it and people who are going back to the old ways, the
Right.
fundamental old ways.
So yeah, it has been one of those things where it's like, and I'm not to like tout my own horn or anything, but like when I talk about this video I had planned to come out, it was supposed to come out this past week, but it wasn't feeling the best and it wasn't as great as I wanted it to be. But that was something I talked about where it's like allowing new ideas to get introduced without just shitting on it, where
Immediately.
that when someone is coming to a beloved IP like Star Wars and they want to bring something new to it, as long as they're respectful of what came before and try their best to then propel the story forwards, I don't have an issue with that, even if it fails, because as long as you're being respectful, it's why Ghostbusters Afterlife does so well. It's why Spider-Man No Way Home does so well, is because it's taking the fans into consideration when it's telling their stories while also introducing new concepts, new ideas, new characters. So when you get Jon Favreau in there with The Mandalorian, he introduces us to this whole new sect of Mandalorians, the ones that don't take their helmets off, that like die hard, always Mandalorians. And again, like we talked about in the podcast and just recently with what you said, we didn't understand how this existed. So what do we get in season 2? We get Bo-Katan. We get a whole series of discussions between the Mandalorians we know from the Clone Wars and Din's like perspective now is like, wait, there's something else. Like it's not just this. So it is one of those things where it's like John and Dave have worked so hard together with, or to bring us something new while also being respectful from what came forward. Because I guarantee whoever's idea it was, whether it was Dave or it was John's, like if it was John, Dave was like, by the way, since I wrote like 7 seasons of Clone Wars, we never wrote them that way. So we need to figure out a solution to this. But it's
People
better.
People are going to ask.
Right. And it's better than what Kathleen Kennedy does, where you get Force Awakens, which I think is, although divided amongst Star Wars fans, was for the most part accepted because, yeah, it was new and it maybe handled some characters not that well, like Han or something like that. But for the most part, it was still fairly respectful of the characters.
It was a decent opener.
But then you get The Last Jedi.
Yeah. But even some people I saw complaining because they were like, it's just A New Hope all over again. And I'm like, well, isn't that okay to be the opener for the next trilogy?
Right. What's
the problem with that?
It was rehashing a basic storyline, but that's for people who never like saw New Hope. Like, and that's not talking about people our age or older. It's young kids, like even kids that weren't around for the prequels. They're not going to know. And if this is their first Star Wars film, what better way than to kind of not rehash or retread, but use A New Hope kind of as a starting point. And that was the point of Last Jedi, was to be the Empire Strikes Back. But then you have Rian Johnson, and this is where this is where Disney Star Wars at that time fails, is it doesn't respect the legacy. It doesn't respect the characters. It mistreats Luke, even while having some good moments. It just disrespects everything that came before it for whatever reasons it needed to do. And then Rise of Skywalker feels, although out of the trilogy, Disney's sequel trilogy is my more favorite, feels like it's disingenuous because it's trying to fix everything. It has a lot to
fix. Yeah.
Right.
I feel like is Rise of Skywalker's like the last kid picked on the team or something. Like, I feel bad for it because it's like you had so much you had to try and do. Like, it's not your fault. I'm so sorry. You know, like,
right.
It tried. It really tried.
So, that's where we were left at the end of Rise of Skywalker with this kind of bad taste in our mouth. While there were some good moments, ultimately what was kind of starting off on a high note ended terribly. So we get John and Dave bringing us Mandalorian, first live action Star Wars show that, they said that could never be done. You can't do a live action Star Wars show, and it succeeds. And it does really well, and it respects the fans, and it propels the story forward. And this is the reason we've kind of taken the side rail from talking to Book of Boba Fett, is unfortunately because this is what happens to Book of Boba Fett as well.
Exactly.
And so we get the Mandalorian, we get a whole new character, introduces these new ideas, these new concepts. We get Grogu, which was something like none of us saw coming, and is just trying to tell a good story. So we get to Book of Boba Fett as kind of this filler in between seasons 2 and 3 of Mandalorian, to also, again, because what did people really want with the Mandalorian? They wanted Boba Fett. We didn't get Boba Fett, but we were fine with what we got. And then they gave us Boba Fett in season 2, and they were like, we want to tell more of Boba's story. Now that we were able to get Tamora back, we see that there's an interest for it. We're going to rename his stupid ship because we want to be PC about stuff. But let's go ahead and tell this side story, and then we'll get back to Mandalorian afterwards. And what it does is it creates this great moment for episodes 5 and 6 of Book of Boba Fett, except that, again, here's the problem with Book of Boba Fett, is pacing, is knowing when to use the character, or the character actually becoming runner-up in their own show. And
right. It definitely, the past 2 episodes, 5 and 6, have not felt like this is the Book of Boba Fett. This has felt like Mando season 3,
right?
Basically, Mandalorian season 3, and it does feel like a side. This feels like the side quest. This is a side, like, story. Like, all the stuff that we've seen of Boba Fett from 1 to 4 is great stuff, but it's definitely like, this is filler stuff that you don't necessarily have to watch.
Right.
As we get back to Mandalorian season 3, it definitely feels like something for the fans and people who are interested, but it's definitely not. If that was just put out there to stand on its own 2 legs on its own, I don't think it would work.
Right. And so this is also the problem, though, is it relies now too much on the Mandalorian, where I think had they just done 1 episode purely focused on Mando, we'd be fine. But we get 2, and let me be clear, not complaining about these 2 episodes. Like,
no, they're fantastic.
They're
episodes.
fantastic episodes. But when you're Book of Boba Fett and you sidetrack 2 of a very limited show run, don't know if it's going to be multiple seasons, don't know what, it's going to feel weird when you go for the final 3 episodes and 2/3 of that is Mando.
Mando.
Let's see. Dave says, I feel that it's good that we're getting more Mando to move his story forward before season 3. However, it does step on. Exactly. Well, I don't know if it rushes on some of Mando's story, because I don't feel like anything's rushed, because I feel like it's all prep for season 3. And that's kind of where the issue is. The fact that,
that did feel rushed. That felt real rushed. But he gets dismissed from the Mandalorian clan, and she's just like, "Well, you've taken your helmet off. Goodbye." That did feel real
The
rushed.
fact that Jing. Okay, yeah, I can agree with you on that because the fact that even the armorer knew Grogu's name and they hadn't even had one conversation about Grogu, like because
Right?
as far as we know, Din hasn't seen her since the on Navarro, like after they
Yes,
got
it's
all
that
kind of
incident.
forced out because we only get that really awesome fight scene with her and we don't even know if she actually gets off Navarro, except for Paz Vizsla, which was, and again, that's another great callback, is Paz's character. Um, but I don't know if that's necessarily as rushed because it's given him again more impetus for season 3 because it's how does he redeem himself for having taken off the helmet? He's got to go back to Mandalore. So I don't know. I don't disagree, but at the same time, I I don't know. I mean, it really just doesn't seem like that was too overly forced, but I do think we needed at least one or two more interactions with the armor prior to this so that things would have felt more, I think, impactful. Also, since we're talking about that particular part, I thought we were watching Halo for a second on that episode.
That is so funny. All of the reactors that I watched, everybody's going, "Oh, it's Halo," and I'm like, "Am I the only person going Larry Niven Ringworld?" Like, because I saw it and I was like, "It's Ringworld! It's Ringworld!" And everybody's going Halo, and I'm like, "Oh well,
Well, we got to give you some
whatever."
credit. You're not a gamer, so um, but yeah. So again, this is kind of where that problem does come in. Where Dave's got a very good point. Where it might feel rushed to some people because this isn't Din's show. This isn't The Mandalorian. So
Yeah, so
why
we
are we
don't spend a lot of
focusing
time.
right? Like why are we focusing so heavily on Din's story when he's got his own show? Like really, we just needed some interaction with Fennec and Din, and he comes to Tatooine, gets his new ship that says, "Hey, I gotta go visit my friend, or I gotta go visit a little friend. I'll be back." Then you can kind of do the stuff with what you get in episode 6, but then get back and focus primarily on Boba.
We spent a long time with him on that ship. Like, I liked it and all, but also a long time.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And I'm confused about the ship because I don't understand how it's useful for him if he's taking in people. Where do they sit?
I mean to say that Halo didn't take some inspiration from Ringworld. Well, yeah, that it's Ringworld does come before it. I'm sure Halo definitely gets its.
Yeah.
But my mind went to Halo first because I'm not familiar with Ringworld. Like I mean, I'm familiar of Ringworld, but I've not like ventured into that sphere. At all, but yeah, we did spend a lot of time on the ship. The logistics
It's cool.
of him being a bounty hunter with a Naboo starfighter, it seems more like if I got to go on a one mission, like a solo
Yeah.
mission, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
good. But
Or
then,
like to hire me as like a fighter and muscle. Like that all seems good, but if you have to actually bring somebody back, like he was in season 1,
right,
what does he do with them?
right. Well, and like I don't even see the cockpit being as something for a prisoner. I see it being purely meant for Grogu. Like that's just all I see it there for. But I did like seeing BD, which I know because you're not a gamer, but
No.
BD being kind of a reference, whether it's the same BD from Jedi Fallen Order that's been remains to be seen. But that is like an interesting aspect because back in season 2, when they were talking about someone showing up for Grogu after going to Tython, Pat and I were discussing about how we thought it might be Cade. Where is it, Cade? Gosh, I've got to look it up now because it's bothering me.
Kestis? Is that what?
Cal Kestis. That's it. Cal. Cade is Was that Caden's original name? I can't remember now. Character. Come on. Of course you don't want to tell me. Can you just tell me easily? Cal Kestis. That's it.
Cal Kestis.
And so we were wondering if he would be the one that would kind of like show up for Grogu,
possibly Ezra,
or Ezra. But yeah, we just didn't know that. Of course, at the time that we didn't know it was going to be Luke that actually showed up, which was really cool. So. Yeah, that's kind of. I think that's where my mind was going, Dave. I just wasn't quite sure if that was where it was going. Doesn't help that I've actually got it staring on my monitor, like right in front of my face, of who that is. So since Dave's kind of brought it up here in the chat, let's talk about the most recent episode. This 6. Is one where the spoilers are like very heavy for anyone. So it opens up, of course, with Raylan Givens. Cobb Vanth showing up to stop the Pikes. Gives them an option, and Raylan Givens the situation. And if you're not familiar with Raylan Givens, go watch Justified. It's on Hulu. I highly recommend it. But when you watch Justified, you'll realize why I say it's Raylan Givens. And also, because I saw this in the IMDb trivia, and I never even crossed my mind because I don't think I saw the show title when I had it playing. But was it A Stranger Comes from the Desert or something like that?
Something like that. Stranger Walks Out of the Desert.
And that actually, people were thinking it was going to be about him, and it's actually in reference to the character who shows up near the end of the episode. So, again, this is part of the problem with this being Book of Boba Fett, and we're focusing primarily on... okay, I have to ask Dave this. Why does Timothy Oliphant weird you out? I need to know this, because I love Timothy, and I'm very excited for the Justified revival show. But I have to know. I have to know. So I'll look forward to when you hear this and it comes in the chat, since there's that slight little delay.
Slight delay.
Again, kind of the central problem of this being Book of Boba Fett, and now we're spending 2 story-heavy episodes prepping us for Mando Season 3. And again, not to complain about these episodes, because they're fantastic. Mm-hmm. But we've got Mando going to wherever Luke is starting his new temple.
Of those weird ant droids building the temple.
No one answering him. R2
that beehive hut style.
R2 going to sleep on him. We get to see.
I love when he's like, "Is that a bench?"
That was pretty.
They built him a bench.
That was pretty good. We get to see kind of a reference of the kind of Dagobah training and. Let's see. I genuinely can't explain it, but something about his eyes, his face, I don't know. He just gives me the willies. Maybe don't. Oh, come on now. That one's not bad. Live Free or Die Hard is the last of the okay Die Hard movies. Come on. I need to. You're down in Georgia, right? I need to come down to Georgia and fight you now. Them are fighting words. I'm gonna get you on this podcast one day, Dave, and we're gonna fight it out. That was the last time Bruce Willis tried in a Die Hard movie. Now it's got stupid effects like the driving of the car into the helicopter, but it was the last of the good Die Hard movies. And if you really want to see him staring directly into your soul, go watch Scream 2. You might forget he's in that. But we get the kind of training again with Grogu, kind of now in the reverse of how it went on Dagobah, which is fantastic. They did, and you and I have talked about this severely.
Severely?
Severely? I don't know why I said. I've been drinking, okay? And not a lot. But we've talked about this a lot.
I'm the one drinking water here, so I'm the sober person.
This is true. Well, I mean, okay, I've had a Guinness and a Mike's Hard. Like that's not heavy drinking. But we've talked about this a lot. Substantially, I think was the word I was looking for, about the face.
Improvement.
Because part of the issue we had with season 2's season finale was Luke just didn't quite look right. And we'll definitely have you on, Dave.
Is that a binding contract?
Yeah, it is now. We'll talk. We'll get you on here. But we talked about how it didn't quite look right, and it looks a lot better this time around.
Significantly better.
It's still not perfect,
right?
But what can you expect with what they're trying to do? Like the fact that they're even trying to do Luke's story post Return of the Jedi is fantastic. And this is where I immediately was like, can we just wipe out the sequel trilogy and start fresh with The Mandalorian and with Book of Boba Fett? Because this is what people wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to see what happens after Return. And if you had to recast Leia, Luke, and Han, as long as you got relatively close lookalikes like Sebastian Stan would be, again, fantastic, and he still wants to do it, would be great.
The only thing that I could say that would be better than what they're trying to do with the deep fake video technology is to simply recast, and if they can get Sebastian Stan and have him play Luke going forward, that's the only step that could be better looking.
Right.
And yes, you'd be able to kind of tell that, it's not Mark Hamill, but that wouldn't have that weirdish sort of uncanny valley that you can kind of tell what they're doing to it,
Right. It's just one of those things where it's it's good for an episode. It's good for the end of a season finale. But because it feels like what they want to do is they want to do a Luke show. Like this really kind of almost solidifies that that they want to focus on Luke post Return of the Jedi, trying to build up a Jedi Academy and kind of fill in Yoda's very, very small shoes. But it would be great. Again, wipe out the sequel trilogy. People would be fine with that. There really wouldn't be any complaints, or even do what the horror movies are kind of doing right now with their wiping out sequels and kind of going back to basics, but respecting the first film. So if you can wipe it out and start here, this is a good starting spot. This is probably where they should have started.
This is definitely where they should have started. This is what they should have done. They honestly should have gone ahead while all of them were alive, with Carrie Fisher was still alive, and recast all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then gotten good scans or whatever they need to and whatnot, and started from here.
Right.
That's what they should have done in the first place.
Because again, it's the part of what we've wanted to see. We didn't need to jump 20, 30 years from Return of the Jedi, because that's...
People might have been up in arms about, oh no, you're recasting younger people or whatever, but they would have gotten over it, and they would have gotten a better story, I think, out of it than what we did.
And again, we've survived recastings,
Right.
And I think no one in their right mind would have reasonably just not accepted that they couldn't reprise those roles. So what did he say? Oh man, 2027 Star Wars in theaters, Tom. I mean, well, okay, Alden Ehrenreich wasn't horrible as a young Han. It was the script.
Yeah.
It was the mishmashing. It was once they kicked Lord and Miller out of there, and Ron Howard coming in to do damage control, and now introducing fuel. Like this fuel, unstable fuel as this big central plot point, whatever, but I mean, heck, then what, oh no, that one, what's What's his girlfriend's name in Solo, A Star Wars Story? Gosh.
Kira?
Yeah, Kira. Uh, oh no. Oh no. I said fighting words. All right, Dave. We're definitely gonna have to schedule a time for you to come on because I feel like a little movie blood sports would be good for the podcast. But like Kira, like have her replaced with well no, because there's still an age difference. I was trying to figure out how to fit Marissa Tomei in there as Aunt May into Solo, you know. But like we Alden Ehrenreich did a fine job. Like he doesn't start out being Han Solo at the beginning of the film, but when you get to those final scenes with Woody Harrelson, it's like he is a closer approximation of a young Han Solo. It was everything else that kind of went into it that just didn't quite work with the film and with his performance. So I feel like if you use Mando and Boba as kind of this new starting point, especially with we've got Ahsoka now, we've got Ahsoka and Luke interacting, which is something we never thought. Now that's just wrong.
That's a good. No, that's a good one.
That's that we're not talking. Now I'm just getting sandbagged. I no. Don't make it. I just made you a mod. Don't make me time you out. I'll make you be silent for 5 minutes. That's if you want to reboot it. Not if you want to, because they've already got a great actress actually. Yeah. Because she was in a deleted scene in Revenge of the Sith, and then they brought her back for Rogue One. Who was fantastic. I mean, she looks almost dead on as the original Mon Mothma. And Rogue One again was like one that did justice by. You're fine, Dave. I'm just kidding. But Rogue One was fine because it was still respectful of, again, what kind of came before. The fact that it was setting itself in right in between, like right at the start of A New Hope. And it did it so well. Everything meshes together. You go back to the original New Hope crawl and you talk about them winning their first big victory. And we finally actually get to see what that victory was.
That was.
We get the awesome Darth Vader hallway fight. Like, that's where they can do
2 minutes.
Right. And that's where you can. Now, there are some inconsistencies about, like, how did, Leia not think he would know that they were the ship that escaped, but like at the same time
that doesn't bother me whatsoever, because to me that just makes the opening hilarious, because she's very blatantly like, I don't know what you're talking about, I wasn't there, we're just on our way, and I'm just like, yes, just I have no idea, and you're just
right. It's just like, it's just one of those things where it is what it is. Like there's not too much to kind of complain about, but that's why Rogue One works out of the actual Disney Star Wars movies. It's the one that works the most. And yeah. I remember the complaints being at the time are the people who love Last Jedi going, oh, it's too reminiscent. It's too full of Easter eggs for the fans and stuff like that. And it's like, that's the point. Like that's the whole point, like why would you think that it would be anything different? So getting back onto this episode, we've got all that kind of going on. We've got Grogu, trying to eat his frogs, and then getting captivated when Luke lifts all the frogs up, and just his mouth drops open and everything like that. And I think again, these are like the strong character moments, and this is where, whether you like him or not, Pedro Pascal is a fantastic actor. I don't know what happened in Wonder Woman 84, but I'm not putting that fault on him. Because you get all of the emotion and all of the character depth without him ever seeing his face. Like that's been the amazing thing he has done since Mando season 1. And I know like half the time he's in the suit, and then when it stunts, it's not him. But I know when he's in there VAing his lines, like he sets himself there. That's right. There's the frogs. Grogu's going to show up and eat them. When he does his VA recording, Like, I know, like, I've seen video where, like, he'll hold like a pillow to be Grogu, like where he's actually holding him in the scene. Like, he's really throwing himself into the performance, and exactly, he's able to convey so much with just his body and his voice. It's why Tom Hardy does an amazing job as Bane in Dark Knight Rises, whether you like the film or not. You cannot say he doesn't do a fantastic job, because he's using basically his eyes to act the entire time. So an actor who can convey all of that emotion with all of those kind of detriments to what an actor uses to convey emotion is a real testament to the actor themselves. So just that whole scene where Ahsoka's telling him, like, you can't go see him. Like, if you do, this will screw it up for him. And that just pause and standing there and just watching Grogu, it's just it's perfectly shot. It's well done. There's just nothing to really complain about that at all. Then we kind of get back to Tatooine. We get the kind of whole rundown of the plan or what they want to do. And
they need foot soldiers.
Yep, they need foot soldiers. And which is going to be really... Oh, so that's what leaves Mando. That's where that line was going. They leave Mando, or Mando goes out to the Freetown is what they call it now, where he helped out in the beginning of season 2, talks with Cobb, and kind of gets like maybe we'll see. Like, I can't really promise anything, but we'll figure something out. And this is the moment now, because I was, I was working while I was watching it. I didn't quite catch the outline of the shadow. Like, I saw it was out there, but I wasn't paying attention closely. But then the second time it showed it, I was like, oh my god, like this isn't happening right now. And then when it actually showed him, this was because I was working and we have our own messaging system in our virtual desktop. Leslie signs on later than I do, and I sent her a message just going, OMG, 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 OMG. After telling her, I think I'd said, like, oh, you need to watch this ASAP before I even got to that part. And once I saw, it was exactly, well, yeah, that hat, yeah. Well, once you see the hat and like, once he's going to lift up his head, it's Cad Bane.
Yeah.
I think I even texted my brother at that moment going, hey, if you need to know who that character is, just let me know. I can fill you in. And he's like, oh, I'm like 3 episodes behind. I'm like, I don't care. You're not going to know because you haven't watched Clone Wars, and you need to know why that's so terrifying. Yeah. And I'm sitting there the whole time going, oh God, I don't want Timothy to die. I don't want Timothy to die.
I immediately was like, goodbye, Timothy. We loved you.
Yeah, I was like, great. I was like, oh, here we're going to have this awesome, like, showdown, and he's going to be there and everything, and then it's Cad Bane. I'm like, nope, he's dead.
Yep, he's dead. He's dead.
Rip, F in the chat. Just you knew as soon as who it was that's who it was going to be. Now, one thing you and I both picked up on this, yet it is credited to the VA from Clone Wars. He sounds a little bit different.
It just sounds like they modulated his voice different.
Yeah. It's just, and it may be something from the transition of live action versus what they were doing on Clone Wars. But regardless, like, because it sounds very close, but it's just a tad bit off. But it was still fantastic to see another legacy Clone Wars character come on the screen. Come on, give the man some respect. Put some respect on that name. So just for a quick rundown of anyone who's listening who was confused or doesn't know who that is, I've got the article up, and let's see if this scene transition.
But if anybody else was using different subtitles, I did kind of appreciate that the subtitles that were on mine just called him the stranger and didn't just tell you what the character was. Yeah,
mine did too. Yeah, it was the same there. So this is, of course, courtesy of IGN, and I figured they'll be able to sum it up a little bit better, whether you hate them or
not.
I thought we were friends, Dave. Thought we were friends. Thought we knew each other. Remember remember back in '07 and the final Harry Potter book came out. We all picked it up and we were all reading it. We all got to the very tragic moment of Hedwig's fate. Come on. That's really only a story for me and like three other people that know that story. So who is Cad Bane? Bane is a member of the Duros race, hence his distinctive blue skin, oversized red eyes, and breathing tubes. Although the breathing tubes I think has been specifically like only set for. Do you really? That's awesome. I would not have known you would have told that story. That was a great night. But I with other Duros that have shown up, I've never seen them with the tubes. So I feel like that's a specific Cad Bane thing versus the actual Duros. But Bane was regarded one of the best bounty hunters in the galaxy, and once Jango Fett met his end on Geonosis, Bane's claim to the title was basically uncontested. Reputation during Clone Wars proved skilled enough to repeatedly face off against the Jedi, their clone troopers, living to tell the tale. Even mighty rulers like Darth Sidious and Jabba the Hutt were impressed by his accomplishments. Bane continued to make a lucrative living after the rise of the Empire, even if Boba Fett's reputation eventually eclipsed his own. Now we know Cad Bane is still a force to be reckoned with in the era of the New Republic, and he seems ready to settle his score with the Fett family. That's what I'm excited for the most in the finale of Book of Boba Fett. Like, seeing that showdown.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Is going to be very, very impressive. I hope this is an hour-long episode coming out on Wednesday. I don't know what it's going to be, but I will be very, very happy, I think, if that's the case. And then, of course, we get that like little shootout. Thankfully, Raylan just gets it in the shoulder.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like he just got hit in the shoulder. The deputy's definitely dead.
So, what's it? See, but he can't... I'm sorry, I gotta make this joke. He shot the sheriff, but he also shot the deputy.
You have a laugh track that you're gonna play, like for
your
own
actually,
jokes?
no. This is a perfect time for the soundbite I was pulling up earlier, so I will pull that up. This will be Pat's reaction, I'm sure, when he if he ever gets around to listening to this. It's a little let's see. Let me make sure I find it. There, right about here.
Off, Carmine. I can't see shit off the sides of my eyes. I'm ripping the fucking head off.
Please. Carmine, don't rip the head off. That's hours of work.
I'm taking the chin off. It kills.
The chin kills.
Yeah, I didn't get this lined up perfectly.
It's quite heavy, Craig. You don't know.
Go over and kick the table.
Shut the fuck up.
Go over and kick the table.
If anyone is unfamiliar of what this is I Think You Should Live, or I Think You Should Leave, on Netflix. Definitely recommend it.
Interesting.
But this would be Pat's reaction to my joke here in a little bit. Needed to line this up better.
That could work.
I'm not doing it. I don't even want to be around anymore.
That's the reaction I expect to the joke.
I don't want to be around anymore.
So yeah, it's I had to make it. It's such a famous. I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy. Yeah, I figure that's the reaction I was going to get from that. So that kind of just then leads us to the end of the episode, speculation of what's coming next, and I gotta say, I'm excited. Despite what flaws are there, pacing wise, story wise, I've really enjoyed it. Like I mean, yeah, there's problems, but I still don't know, as a true Star Wars fan or not, I don't know how you don't enjoy this if you're tied into the expanded universe, if you're tied into the characters, because Boba Fett's been a favorite character of mine since as long as I can remember. I mean, I that's why I had the comic books. I had the some of the other books in the old Legends timeline. It was just one of my favorites. I always loved this ship. So it's great to kind of get a show with him, and even though they maybe haven't handled it the best way, it's been great. And also, of course, as the credits rolled and it said directed by Dave Filoni, I was like, of course, I knew it.
Was.
It's like I knew it. I knew this was the guy that was behind it. So, yeah. Any thoughts that you have?
The only other thing about this episode that I want more of is like I want to see more of the interaction of Ahsoka and Luke.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if we're gonna get that maybe in her show, because this kind of almost feels it almost feels a little bit like a kind of like a cross point for the different shows.
Right.
You know, like this is a cross point for season 3 of Mando. It's also a cross point for this season 1 of Book of Boba Fett. That maybe we'll have some lead up, and it's kind of like there'll be maybe a bit of a jump or something in her show, but we'll know what happened because she was there at this point in time, sort of a thing. Like,
right.
I don't know, maybe not, but I would like to see a little more of her and Luke's interaction. Like, when did they meet? When did she, meet him, and how did that go? And because I really liked all of the reminiscing things.
Didn't she say? And because I can't remember if she said this or not. Didn't she say like this would be the last time you'll see me or something?
No, she said maybe.
Okay. Oh no, he
leaving.
asked. Will this be the last time I see you? That's why the line was coming to my mind. Because obviously, I feel like with some of the rumors with casting for the Ahsoka show, like she's going to find Ezra and she's going to find Thrawn. So
I think because wasn't her and Sabine, because at the end of Rebels she meets up with Sabine. We're probably
and I know they have. I'm pretty sure they've already cast Sabine for the show. So definitely very, very excited for all the future projects. Like, I mean, I even said to you, I was like, all right, like next week, I need an announcement of a release date for Mando season 3, and it better be like May, But
and Ahsoka.
What's really interesting, I saw this was a rumored leak, because now we can kind of just talk about general news, because we won't give a score until we've watched the finale. But saw news that the Obi-Wan show may be coming in May, so that's something to look forward to. Like, I'm really excited for that. But I'm also a little concerned because of some of the artwork images they've shown where like Obi-Wan and Vader are fighting. And that does contradict some pretty strong points set up in New Hope. Like, those aren't things you can just overlook, or like the memories of an old man or something like that. Like, you can overlook him not remembering R2-D2 or C-3PO, whatever. Like, that is what it is. But him having a fight with Darth, it just, I don't know.
I feel like the space for it is because he says, I haven't felt that presence since, and he doesn't finish that line.
Yeah.
So we don't know what that sense is, because you can say, oh, well, it's here. You can say that because we're filling that in from what we've seen.
Right.
But technically, we don't know because they haven't actually given us a firm in the cinematic, like MCU, like in the cinematic part of it. They haven't given us any sort of firm, like, it is right here, and that's the spot. So because they didn't, they leave themselves a leeway to then give it to us possibly here. But I also saw they're going to have Hayden back.
Yep.
And I didn't know if some of that art was just kind of like, this is cool, when you like come up with whatever concepts and put them all over the board, and then you kind of go back and edit things down. But I thought, well, if they're going to have Hayden back, maybe we're just going to get like some filler in things from, the prequels setting and Clone Wars setting, and like, I didn't necessarily know if we're going to have a full-on
I know
Obi-Wan versus Vader fight.
I know he's supposed to be in costume as Vader. So like, and you can always do a Dagobah fight type thing where it's like a dream fight, I guess. They just have to be careful, I think, is kind of the point I'm hammering on. Is this is where you can kind of cross the line to where you will upset fans, like people who genuinely just love it and will accept most of like what you put out there, but there are those things, and I think that that's where the kind of the toxic fandom, because this is something you and I feel about what the Star Trek Discovery did so wrong, was it just screwed up timeline and canon, and it's really hard to reconcile that with a long-running IP or franchise that could potentially go somewhere, but then once you screw up one tiny thing, it's enough for people to be like, yeah, I'm not watching it, or I'm not tuning in, or this just, I won't accept it. And so I just, and right now for the TV shows, they've given me no inclination that they won't be respectful. The movies, that's a different story, because the movies have just done what the movies have done, and it quite frankly, it pales in comparison to what the shows have done. And so, like, this is kind of diverting off of Book of Boba Fett, but we pretty much discussed what we've wanted to discuss with Book of Boba Fett. But this is kind of about the state of Star Wars in 22 in general, where, again, like, I think people need to be more considerate with what Disney or people working for Disney are trying to do with trying to tell new stories or introduce new characters, because I know you're not familiar with it or you haven't been checking it out, but I have been reading the High Republic books. I've read some of the comics. The comics haven't been that great. I was getting some of the younger adult books too, outside of the ones that were written by Claudia Gray. I just have decided not to pick up because Claudia Gray's like the only one I actually really like, and that might set some people aflame because a lot of people don't like her personal politics or don't like her personally. But quite frankly, out of the book universe, she's one of the best Star Wars writers. I don't care what you got to say. I don't care if you got to complain that she made a knockoff Han and a knockoff Chewie by making a rock be basically Chewie. But like when you go and you look at Master and Apprentice, which I know that's one you have read. What else did she do? The Leia books she has done.
I've read the Leia book.
I haven't. That's the one. Or I've read the Bloodline book. I have not read the one that's set like before New Hope. But Claudia knows the characters and she respects the legacy. Now, High Republic. The problem I have with High Republic is they didn't set it back far enough. They wanted to have a younger Yoda involved, but they decided to set it like 100 years before like Phantom Menace. And to me,
instead of really rolling the clock back.
Right. Like one reason why you can look at the Knights of the Old, or not Knights of the Old Republic, but the Old Republic MMO, which I play. I have not played it as much as I need to play it or get back to it rather. One of the great things about Old Republic telling the stories that it's telling is because it's set like thousands of years like before, you know, and so they can do what they want with like the Sith and the Jedi and whatnot. Like quite frankly, well, no, Tython comes from Knights of the Old Republic, and then Old Republic also did it there. But pretty sure like they've introduced ideas or concepts that have been used on in later Star Wars stuff. But like High Republic, the problem that it has is that it's set that 100 years before, and it's acting like the Republic is a newly fledgling organization, and that like they haven't expanded to even the outer rim yet, and like hyperspace lanes aren't out there, communication outposts aren't out there, and that's the whole point of Starlight Beacon. That's my problem with High Republic. But outside of High Republic's timeline, I like the characters it's introducing. I like Buryaga, who's a Wookiee Jedi. They've just done some really cool things, and people want to complain that the Nihil are just pirates, but you know, oh, how could these pirates, you know, be a force against the Republic? But it's like when you read the books, if you've read the books, you'll understand the threat that they actually pose, and the fact that it's not a fully unified Republic yet is part of also the reason why they're having these issues. But it does introduce great ideas. I'm reading the current one right now, and I think this is where you're going to have kind of one of your first instances of a gray Jedi, which right now is just kind of Ahsoka, which outside of Ahsoka, like that's the concept that they could have introduced into The Last Jedi that everyone would have loved, and they just didn't. Like, it was there,
they
but,
didn't go
but they
that
just
way at all.
no. Oh, that actually, sorry, since that came to my mind and we've talked about this. This is kind of, I think, where we can say episode 6 was where Luke kind of learns more about Darth Sidious. You know, because we see through him reaching out to Grogu showing Order 66 at the temple.
Oh, seeing Order.
Yeah. So, and I saw Star Wars Theory's kind of theory is that Jocasta, the librarian, was the person that helped Grogu escape. That I'll just leave up there as speculation because we still don't know.
I don't know. It's not clear to me where Grogu was hiding
Right.
in that moment, because it looks like he has a blanket, so it looks like he's in a pod thing, like in his little Annie thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know where that was. You know, he was only looking forward. We didn't see him like look to the side and see other children or something. So I'm not entirely sure where he was in the temple.
But it does kind of give us, again, more setup for Mando Season 3, I think.
Yeah, they left it vague enough. Let's say that. They left it vague enough.
So it's this thing where, like, I'm liking the High Republic, but I feel like the High Republic's going to fail because people are still stuck on they don't like Disney Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean,
in the background somewhere.
Lucas is still alive, so it's very possible, although he doesn't really own any more rights to it. You know, and they might.
They have him floating around in the scene with Anakin.
Yeah.
Master Skywalker. How does he get out of there?
I think that would also be one, like, people wouldn't complain about that being added in, because I've not met one person who has not liked Grogu. Like,
yeah.
I mean, my niece loves Grogu, and I mean, most everyone calls him Baby Yoda, of course, because that's just the easiest thing. I mean, that's what we spent a season calling him until we learned his name. But that's also, like, an interesting concept too, because as far as we knew, outside of Yoda and Yaddle, like, they were the only two of their race that we knew were still alive. Now we've got this whole concept of another one, and are there more, and are they force sensitive? And this is where, like, I want them to wipe out the sequel trilogy, because if they don't, we know the choice he's going to make between the armor and the lightsaber. Like, because by the rules of Last Jedi, you know, it's only Luke left, and I wouldn't have killed Grogu off necessarily. And this is a concept that I think, like, they need to hit harder on in Mando Season 3, is melding the Mandalorian who was a Jedi and left the Jedi because he didn't believe in the non-attachment rule, and founded the fundamentalist Mandalorians as the attachment means everything type of thing. And you said this to me too, and I agreed 100%. Like, why can't we mix it? Like, why can't there be an equal amount of non-attachment and attachment? Like, what can't we blend these two concepts together to forge a new path?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I'm kind of wondering if what we're gonna get in Mando Season 3 is him, like, because he'll pick the armor and be hanging out there, and for some reason it'll need to come back around to Luke again, and he'll also then at that time get the lightsaber. I don't know. That's pure speculation. Right. But I'm thinking at some point throughout Season 3 of Mando, he's gonna come to Grogu will come to a point where it's like the two paths need to merge. But I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm thinking, and I'm like, I don't know how they're going to get there, because Luke laid it out like you can have one or the other, and I'm kind of like, that doesn't seem right to me.
That's what the meme I've seen recently is, the only Siths deal in absolutes, and it's
right. I'm like,
but at the same time, I don't feel like that's an absolute, because he has a choice, so it's not like one choice is wrong, right? Like, it's not, oh, only the Sith are right and the Jedi are wrong.
Also, the practical side of me is kind of like, why wouldn't you let him go ahead and have that armor to help protect him?
Right.
Because that would be useful.
And it's not like it's going to stay that size forever.
Right.
So,
Like,
I mean, how badass would that
cool.
be to see like little Grogu coming out of nowhere in the full Beskar chainmail, wielding the lightsaber and just like kicking ass? It would be fantastic.
He was starting to learn how to jump and do triple flips like Yoda in Return of the Sith or Revenge of the Sith.
Grogu's first attempts at jumping spoke to me on another level.
That was so funny and so cute. That's the thing. I can imagine the puppeteers are like, we have to try and get the puppet to do what now? Yeah, how much of this is going to be CGI? Like, can we make the puppet balance on a single foot? Yeah.
God, those were just wonderful moments, though. But it's like when he tried to jump and he didn't jump really high.
Like, yeah.
I felt that. that really hit close to home.
I loved him back in the backpack doing the whole running and
Right.
do a flip over the thing, and I'm like, oh, it's so cute. And also so sad because then you think about, Yoda and everything.
Well, and then again, you get you're trying, just do it.
Yeah.
Just the try or try not, or do or do not. There is no try. Do you think we'll ever see Grogu as an adolescent? I know they age slowly and are forever years old. I think it's possible. I mean,
Maybe is this technically like toddler because he can't even speak yet? I'm like, what's the next step
well,
for him to
he's 50 now. Yoda was 900 some odd when he passed, so this is probably adolescent years or childhood years. Probably when he hits 100, he's more like getting into the teenage years. And, quite frankly, depending on where they want to take Grogu's story, I could totally see whether they would CGI him or puppet him. I don't know, because one of the things I did like about what they went back on the special editions of Phantom Menace was just going ahead and re-CGIing Yoda because it felt more consistent. And then I was fine in Last Jedi when they went back to a puppet. But depending on how many episodes you're doing it for and the expenses...
Yeah,
I could see them doing it as long as they have a good story to tell. Well, yeah, and maybe he'll talk right by having Luke train him. He'll learn how to speak not in riddles. But it's possible. Like, there was one really cool meme, and I wonder if I can find it. I'll try to pull it up here because it was really cool fan art. Where Grogu was training someone, and it had a little Grogu older meme. Let's see if I can find this because I saw this on Facebook, but that's not it. That's not it.
a corgi.
Well, it was like, so it looked like a more grizzled Grogu training another like Jedi, and the Jedi asking him a question, or Padawan rather, Grogu training. But it was a melding of the Jedi and what he learned from Mando
As being a Mando.
Yeah.
So basically gray.
And it was, but the end of it was, this is the way. Oh, that's not it. Maybe if I search under that could work. Stupid, trying to, is this it? Aha! Found it. People didn't think I would find it. Let's see.
Now you've got to figure out how to put it over there.
Oh, I know how to put it over there. I just want to get the actual image. Okay, this should work. Let's see. Let's go to this one. Yep. Okay. So, Master Grogu, I thought Jedi were not supposed to form attachments. Attachments do not lead to the dark side. Fear of losing them does. I do not understand. You can be attached to something but not fear to lose it. Treasure those around you while you can and rejoice when they return to the Force. You mean when they die. Death is a natural part of life. I wish it weren't, but it is. Once you accept that, the dark side will never take you. I have to live knowing that life and death are inseparable. It sounds impossible. The master gently touches his pauldron. No, Padawan, it is not impossible. It is the way. And I'm like, that is fantastic. Like, whoever came up with this, like, Lucasfilm, Disney, hire them. Like, because I don't know where this is from. I don't know who created it. But I saw it on Facebook and I was like, that's fantastic. That's what we were talking about with melding the Mandalorian way with the Jedi way and having them both come together. It's almost beautiful. Like, you know, as much as you want to call me a nerd, it's a beautiful way to look at it, and a great way. Like, if you take this concept here and you build a Grogu show around it, I think you could have a really good show. And maybe he does choose the lightsaber, but he takes Mando's lessons and forges his own path where he's not a Jedi informal like Luke. You know, it's just one of those things where it's like, again, whoever came up with this knows Star Wars. Yes, bravo. 10 out of 10. Again, Disney, Lucasfilm, whoever, hire this person. Because it's reminiscent of Dave Filoni. Like, someone who really respects Star Wars, who knows Star Wars, and has again, this is what I'm talking about, where you can take existing IPs, respect it, and add something new to it. Like, because what was everyone doing after Mando season 1? It's the way, or that's the way, or the way, you know, like,
this is the way.
This is the way. And to take just that concept and build this narrative, you don't even really know who he's talking to. You don't know the Padawan or anything like that. There's no other context outside of that. This is a conversation of him as a master talking to a Padawan who is trying to understand the concepts of the Jedi. And, you know, and quite frankly, this shows where the Jedi were wrong in their practices, in my opinion, because it's absolutely correct. Like, it's like the deleted scene. I don't know if you've seen that. Let's see if I can find that here. Have you seen the deleted scene text from Revenge of the Sith?
Text?
With Obi-Wan and Padme talking. Let's see. Switch back here while I look it up.
I know I've seen a scene of them talking, but I mean, it's been a while.
Let's see. What's the better image here? Is this it? No, that's not it. Oh, yeah, actually, this works. This actually works, because this was the whole point of it. New tab. Let's see. I don't know how to zoom in Brave, but this is on Reddit. The dialogue George Lucas keeps. I don't like sand. The dialogue George Lucas cuts. I am not blind, Padme, though I have tried to be for Anakin's sake and for yours. Anakin has loved you since that day you met in that horrible junk shop on Tatooine. He's never even tried to hide it, though we do not speak of it. We pretend that I don't know, and I was happy to because it made him happy. You made him happy when nothing else ever truly could. Like, again, that's something like, why do you cut that out?
Why did we cut that? Yeah, why did we cut that?
Because
that should have been in there.
I mean, we even saw it in the final season of Clone Wars, where, like, you have the moment where he's talking to Padme and, like, Obi-Wan's like, yeah, there's something going on here. Like, he's not stupid.
He knows. Yeah, you know? He's not blind.
And so I feel like them, like, having that scene there and having addressed it, like, because it gives more, I think, credence to her just leaving and going straight to Mustafar to try to save him. Like, by what he says to her, you were the only thing that could make him happy. She thinks, I'm the only one who can save him. And she goes to Mustafar with that intent. She wants to save the man she loves. It still doesn't make it creepy that, he was 9 and she was like 16 when they met on Tatooine.
Yeah,
but
timeline things are something that I feel like George Lucas didn't really think about so much. Like, obviously, when he made the first 3, and then when he tried to do the prequels, I think he kind of shot himself in the foot a little bit with timeline.
Yeah, because, like, you get the feeling in A New Hope, it's like 30, 40 years maybe since, like, the Clone Wars. And then you get to Revenge of the Sith, and it's like, wait, it's like only 19 years?
Something like that, yeah.
It's like, wait, the old Republic was so old, it was 19 years ago? It's like, you got people going, oh, the Jedi, they're a myth. 19 years ago. People were still alive that had interacted.
So, to be fair, if there were only 10,000 some Jedi and there's like 7 billion people on each planet, that's like how many other planets?
I don't know. That's stretching it a bit too far. But whatever. It goes to what you were saying.
There's a significant number of people in existence in this universe, and only like 10,000-ish Jedi.
Well, that's why it makes more sense in Force Awakens when they're like, the Jedi were real, because you've gone 30 years like without like you've had lifetimes of certain people like past that would have known, whereas like 19 years, most of the people that were alive during the Clone Wars are still alive with the Empire. So it's one of those hasty things, but I totally agree. I think, like, because he didn't necessarily have the prequels in mind when he wrote the original trilogy and stuff, but like when he wanted to go back and kind of fill those gaps, and he's like, oh crap, I gotta do it like this. Like, there's not much else. I didn't give myself so much wiggle room. It's not like
but he could have made Anakin at least the same age.
Oh,
14 and 14.
There's no debating that.
There's
I remember
the 9-year-old casting was a big mistake.
I remember because I was like 9 when that came out. No. I would have been. When did it come out? 99.
99. I'm pretty sure.
Let's see. I gotta say, when I'm not live streaming a game and actually live streaming a podcast episode, it's so much easier. Because then I don't have to go outside of the game to get to my web browsers and stuff. Release date. 99. So yeah, I would have been 11, or I would have almost been 11 when it came out. And I remember even then being like, okay, yeah, this is who he's going to end up with, but this is weird.
Yeah, it's way too young. Yeah.
He's too much of a child, and like she fits as being this teenage queen, right? Like,
yeah, that made total sense.
All the mentalities and all the kind of standoffishness with the Jedi and stuff, that makes sense. Now, what I will laugh about, because I remember even at the time when you hear Darth Sidious speak for the first time, and then of course you know who Palpatine is. I told my brother, I was like, Sidious is Palpatine, right? And he's like, well, it's the same actor. I'm like, no, they're the same person. He's like, no, it's just the same actor. I'm like,
same person.
I'm like, I get why it has to be a mystery for us, right? Like, I get why you're establishing Darth Sidious as a mysterious, shady figure. But for as much as he and I have watched Star Wars, I was like, come on. You've got to just realize that Darth Sidious is the other side of the good Palpatine, It's why the camera focuses on him at the end after, defeating the Trade Federation and everything like that. So But okay, let's start wrapping things up here because we've been going about the 2 hours that I had originally planned with our little hiccup at the beginning of this. So state of Star Wars in 2022. Is it on the rise? Is it just meh or on a decline? What thoughts do you have?
I think so far with their new strategy of doing the shows and like giving us the final season of Clone Wars, giving us Bad Batch, giving us Mando, giving us Boba Fett, giving us those Vision ones, the anime style ones, I think has all been good. So I would say we're going in the right direction. And as long as they don't screw it up, like I think you could easily, like if you're a sequel hater, you could easily just completely ignore them, stay here in these shows and enjoy what you're watching, and just pretend like they've never existed in the first place.
Yeah, I pretty much agree.
I think we're good, and it's just one of those. It's like, are they gonna screw it up? Maybe, maybe not. You know, but so far I don't feel like anything's been a big flop.
I'm gonna slightly change what you said there.
No, you're not allowed.
No, I am, because it's not will they screw it up. It's will Kathleen Kennedy screw it up.
Or will somebody get too involved?
Because I think, because again, like this was the from the YouTubers who just don't know how. I guess not know how, but again, the ones who want just the pure outrage. And see, even Dave does agree too. Here, it's on the rise for sure.
I feel like a lot of YouTube is just for the clicks and for the likes and for the subscribes and whatnot, and it's just, what can I do for shock value that's going to get the most amount of people on my live stream, watching my videos, you know,
right.
Engaging, and then because it becomes a certain point where this is your main source of income, so they need these people to be interacting, they need them to constantly be watching. And I feel like it's just shock value. I mean, like, I would not be surprised whatsoever to, like, see a big YouTuber, like, out in the wild, you know, and them, like, not actually have that opinion, but it's what they put on for the show.
Right, because, like, again, going back to what this YouTuber was saying, and I generally agree with this YouTuber on... I'm not even subscribed to their channel, but I do check their videos out frequently, and they've been one of the few of the ones that I was following that I've kind of stopped, where that's all it became was, what can I say that's crazy enough or counterculture enough that I know people agree with and will be outrageous enough that they will watch it, whether they hate watch my content or they watch because they're actual fans.
They'll either get the people in who agree with you, or they'll get the people who disagree with you who want to watch the video so I can attack you, you know, and you stir up both sides.
That's no way to talk about Dave. You know, he coming in here with those fighting words about live free or die hard.
He's fighting you. He's not fighting me. Hasn't said anything to me.
We might have to have you moderate that fight. But no, you make a really good point, because his whole thing was that you know, oh well, you know, these are the people that they want, that the fans want to replace Kathleen Kennedy, as Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, because of the goodwill that they've earned through these shows. But then here, you know, Book of Boba Fett's not doing great, or it's blah blah blah, or it's, you know, disrespecting the character or whatever, and it's like, but are you actually watching the show? Are you just reporting on articles you're seeing that are saying the show's not good, this legacy writer hates it, doesn't like how they're dealing with Boba Fett, these people had to complain about the bikers, so therefore it's a terrible show? You're going off data that you actually, because we don't get to see the numbers. Like I hate this when YouTubers go, oh, the ratings are on the decline for this MCU show on Disney Plus, or this show on Netflix is doing horrible. We don't see those numbers. Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, they'll release only selective shows numbers, and usually after they fail. Like we'll know Netflix says this was the most streamed movie on Netflix this weekend, but we don't actually know it. Like, they're not releasing a document that shows how many people within the U.S., how many profiles were shared with their family members who sat through the full 2-hour film, and how many of them rated the content afterwards. Like, we're not privy to those numbers. It's the problem kind of with streaming services, is we're not sure when they cancel a show and they say it's because it wasn't doing well, was it actually doing well or was it not? So you can't just say and make a video going, well, viewership is on the decline for Disney Plus because of Book of Boba Fett's failing, because you have no actual metrics. You don't have access to the metrics. And if you do, why aren't you showing them?
This particular YouTuber, I think if we're thinking of the same person, really lost me when they complained about Spider-Man Homecoming having Peter cry. I'm like,
actually, a different one, but that is a good one to bring up too.
Yeah, well, that's who I was thinking of, and I'm like, he's 15 years old, man.
Right.
He's under all the, and then he cried, and he was outraged. He made a whole video specifically over his outrage of the fact that you went and you made Spider-Man cry, and I'm like, jeez. And that's when I was like,
what about Amazing Spider-Man 2 with the death of Gwen Stacy?
Right. I just, at that point, that's when I really had to personally curate my feed, my news feed, my YouTube feed, because I'm like, if I'm only ingesting all of this negativity or all this constant, I'm like, I can't do it. I can't handle it. I got to cut this out. And
go ahead, finish your thought.
Well, I was just like, I can't be taking in all of that. What you take in is what comes out, and that's not what I want.
It was just constant negativity, and I've got enough negativity in my own life. I'm my own harshest critic. I beat myself up over minutia stuff that I shouldn't even beat myself up over. But I'll name them, because not to start fights with them, but I will say they're not terrible content creators. They're actually good content creators, but I think that they're being a little disingenuous because they said the right thing at the right moment and their channels blew up. So I feel, as a former viewer and subscriber of them, that they're only perpetuating that to keep that growth or keep that base there.
That they snagged.
And if you watch these YouTubers and you like them and you like their content, fine. I'm not gonna say Dave is bad if he follows Nerdrotic. If Dave likes what Nerdrotic's got to say, then that's all fine. If you think he's got great points, you think he's got great points. The quartering is the other one. Quartering is the one that I'm more disappointed in than Nerdrotic, because quartering started out very, very. I think when I started following him, he was at 75K subscribers, and I thought he was doing really good reporting on stuff. And then something happened around the Mundane Matt stuff. If you're not familiar with that YouTube drama, don't worry about it. It's not stuff you really need to know about, because that's kind of how I found him. And once he started reporting on certain stuff, he started blowing up. And then his thumbnails got to be clickbaity. His titles got very clickbaity. And it was just oh, well, I didn't actually watch this, but because I hear this person say this, then I think this. And it's okay, I can't necessarily take your viewpoint seriously if you're not watching it. Now, that's where I can give Nerdrotic credit. He does watch the stuff. The opinions he might spout might actually be how he actually feels about it. So I'll give Gary credit on that. But other YouTubers, because they've already predetermined they don't like it, they're just no, I'm out. Goodbye. We'll see you next time. Hey, nothing wrong with liking the Power Glove, Dave. Do you get that reference, Leslie? Have you ever seen The Wizard? God, I'm gonna make you a gamer. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna get you addicted to Final Fantasy 14 like myself.
Keep dreaming.
Nope, it's happening. I'm gonna force it, especially if we start making money off this stuff. It's going to be a prerequisite then. I'm going to make a contract and everything. But no, it's the reason this channel kind of came into being, and this will kind of be the final stuff, and we'll head out for the night. I don't think I'm going to do a game stream after this, just because we had all the hassle with getting everything kind of set up for this one. But well, who doesn't watch The Wizard for Fred Savage? I mean, that's the Fred Savage and Mario is the reason to watch The Wizard. Still a fantastic movie. But the reason this kind of channel came to be, and why when Pat came up with the name Critics Not Cynics, why it resonated so much to me was because of these YouTubers who I felt just wanted to become cynical, or not want to become cynical, but became cynical. They just decided to just start attacking the IPs for ideas they didn't like or they didn't agree with, but offer no solutions or even positives for what the shows were doing right. And that's what we try to do here. Like, again, we've, I think, labeled out or said a lot of criticisms of Book of Boba Fett where we think it flounders a little bit, where it has the focus on the main character really struggles. He becomes the second place character in his own show. Pacing, episode length, kind of direction on where the show wants to go. I'm sure it's going to get resolved by the finale, but even you want to go kind of even on the opposite of that, go listen to our Falcon and Winter Soldier reviews. I mean, that was one where we started out fairly positive and we went downhill pretty quick on it. And we did talk about the things we liked, but there was just an overwhelming amount of negative to it. But what did we do? We didn't just say there's nothing you can do to improve it. We offered suggestions. We brought up ideas of how they could have made this work. We talked about how Hawkeye managed to handle the multiple plot lines the right way versus how Falcon and Winter Soldier did not. So that's kind of the reason for this channel and for the podcast is I kind of got tired of it. And, I'm with like-minded people, I think, which also helps. Leslie and I constantly, and there's stuff you and I don't agree on from time to time, but I think we respect each other enough to go, yeah, okay, that does make sense. And Pat, when Pat shows up, he's able to provide, like, for example, what was it? Oh, he and I both watched Archive 81 on Netflix, and he was like, you'll be hooked to episode 1. Like, episode 1, it's amazing, it's fantastic, you're going to love it, you're going to love it, you're going to love it. I watched episode 1, I'm like, out of an hour-long episode, the last, 3 minutes were the only good thing about it. And then I ended up, it picked up, but it took 3-4 episodes before I really got into it. And I think my problem, as it turned out, was I'm sitting there watching the show and going, there are podcasts that have done this far better. Only to find out it was based off of a podcast I had listened to years ago, back when I started with Great American. Didn't even realize it was the same thing, that it got adapted for television. But he brought up some points about it that he thought worked really well. I didn't agree with it, but I stuck with the show. Not all shows are worthy of that, because I did end up liking it, and I was very interested by the end. But that's the point of being a critic. It's not to just tear down something. It's to provide a criticism and offer suggestions or solutions on how to do it better. Not that I could do any of this better myself. Heck, I can barely run a podcast. And a mediocre one at that. But, I think everyone can bring something to the table if they're coming from a genuine place. They're not just, let's hate it because Kathleen Kennedy's running Star Wars or Disney Star Wars or Lucasfilm or whatever. Because you got to remember, Kathleen Kennedy's been around since Indiana Jones. I mean, She's been around. She knows the industry. She maybe makes some bad choices, but also without Kathleen Kennedy, we don't get Mandalorian. We don't get Book of Boba Fett. You don't get the MCU without Jon Favreau, but you also get some mediocre Jon Favreau stuff from time to time too. It's just how it is. How it is. It's the way she goes, she says. For any Trailer Park fans out there, or Trailer Park Boys fans. So I agree. I think Star Wars is on the rise. I think anyone that's interested in the High Republic should definitely check out High Republic. Any of the games that are out there, even if it's Knights of the Old Republic or the Old Republic MMO, Fallen Order. If you really want Star Wars to thrive and you want it to succeed and you want it to do better, support it, but also criticize it. Don't let them get away with stuff. When they are doing something wrong, let them know respectfully. But that's how you get that point across. That's how you get Mandalorian. That's how you get Book of Boba Fett. John and Dave go, okay, what's going wrong here? How can we fix it? And that's where we get this awesome content. That's how we get an Ahsoka show. That's how we get Cad Bane, a character I would have never have dreamt showing up in the grander scale of Star Wars. That's how you get a satisfying end to Darth Maul and Obi-Wan, with Rebels. And you don't even have to like Rebels, but I can guarantee anyone interested in seeing that final fight will love that episode. Don't have to like the art style. Art style is the hardest sell on it. I think they learned that lesson, especially with Resistance. But there's another one, Resistance. Dave Filoni behind it. I don't think he had that much involvement in it, but it failed. 2 seasons. Part of the failure was the animation style. Learned that, went back with it to Bad Batch after season 7 Clone Wars. They're listening, but you have to also respect them. You have to respect the creators and the people involved. They want to respect you as much as you respect them. I think that's the final message I have in my long ramblings. So, any other final thoughts from you?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you all for if you stuck around. I appreciate Dave showing up in the chat. My sister-in-law showing up earlier. Even the couple bots that the one never showed back.
Bots.
Yeah, the one never showed back after the timeout, and the other 2, of course, were blocked right away. But thank you to everyone showing up, and we're looking forward to doing this more regularly. So look forward to us doing another episode next Saturday. Like I said, no game stream, I think, tonight. I think this was enough for me tonight, to be prepared for and ready to go. Dave, no problem. You're very much welcome anytime. And if you want, anytime you want to be on, maybe if you want to join us next week, just let me know. You know how to get in touch with me. So, all right, guys. Well, we'll talk to you next time. Look forward to our my Toxic Fandom video coming out. I don't have a deadline on it. It's if I'm motivated enough to finish doing what I need to do to re-record it tomorrow, I'll get it out this week.
Maybe you need a deadline to be motivated.
Probably. But I'm really excited for that one. When I had recorded it, I had interruptions. But I think I had a lot of stuff that I've brought up tonight that I had in there, and a really great perspective to bring. We do want to have some more kind of shorter form videos to release for you like midweek. So look forward to that stuff coming out, and we will catch you next time. All right. Now, of course, as the good old part of the live streaming comes, I got to always figure out where to end it.